everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking into Saudi Arabia's new work visa rules.
Yeah, this is a pretty hot topic.
It is, and especially we're focusing on the changes that are going to be affecting Indian workers specifically,
Right.
because that's what a lot of you have been asking about.
Yeah, and it's a big deal for a lot of people.
Huge, huge. So whether you're thinking about maybe working over there yourself or, someone who might be affected by this, we're going to break it all down for you.
Yeah,
No jargon here, just
Yeah.
the need-to-know info. And we're going to be getting that straight from the source. This report from Business Standard titled, Saudi Arabia Tightens Work Visa Regulations for Indian Workers.
Yeah,
So,
they really dive deep in this one.
yeah, they do. They do. It's really interesting. And, it's especially interesting when you think about how many Indian people already live and work in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. Did you know it's over 2.4 million people? It's the second largest expat group there.
That's wild. I did not know it was that big.
Yeah, it's huge.
Wow. So a lot of people are going to be keeping an eye on these changes. So I guess the big question is, what's behind all of this? What's motivating these new rules?
Well, it really all comes back to this thing called Vision 2030.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard of that.
It's this initiative that Saudi Arabia has been pushing. They're really focused on diversifying their economy. They've always been so reliant on oil.
Right.
And they're trying to move away from that. So they're making these huge investments in other things like tourism, technology, renewable energy, you name it.
Oh, wow. So they're really looking beyond oil, trying to become like a global hub for all sorts of industries.
Exactly. And to do that, they need people. They need a skilled workforce.
Of course.
Like all the best and brightest engineers, tech specialists, project managers, the whole 9 yards. And that's where these labor reforms come in. They're trying to attract all that global talent, but also keep everything running smoothly,
Organized.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty here. The biggest change that I've seen, at least, is this whole pre-verification thing for Indian workers.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Before you could apply for the visa and then get your qualifications checked.
Right.
Now it's the opposite, right?
You gotta get everything verified before you even think about submitting that visa application.
So no more hoping for the best.
Nope. It's all up front now.
So, okay. Let's say I'm an Indian engineer. I just landed my dream job in Riyadh.
Okay.
First of all, congrats.
Congrats.
But so what do I need to do? What are the steps?
First, you still need that job offer, that formal invitation letter from your Saudi employer, and it has to be all certified by the Saudi Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Chamber of Commerce.
Right. Sounds official.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But then on top of that is this pre-verification thing. All your educational and professional certificates got to be scrutinized, authenticated, proven legit.
So it's not just enough to have the diploma, you have to prove it's real.
Pretty much.
So I'm digging through my files right now, calling up my university. What exactly does this pre-verification involve? Do I have to fly back to India with a stack of papers?
Well, exact details are still a bit fuzzy, but the Saudi mission in India, they're the ones running this show. And they've issued a circular church stating that this all kicks off January 14th, 2025.
Oh, so it's happening soon.
Yeah, so mark your calendars, folks.
January 14th. Big changes. So, okay, after the job, offer the invitation letter. What's next in this pre-verification obstacle course?
So your educational and professional certificates all need to be attested, which basically means going through this whole process to prove they're legitimate. You'll probably need to get your university involved, maybe professional licensing boards if that applies to you.
So potentially a lot of running around.
It could be, yeah.
Is this going to cause major delays for people?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right.
I mean, the Saudis are saying that they're aiming to make the system more streamlined and efficient.
Okay.
By verifying everything up front, they're hoping to avoid issues and delays further down the line. It's like a quality control check at the very beginning.
I see the logic there. It's like, we want the best, so prove you've got the goods. But that could be a huge barrier to entry for some people, right? Someone might have the skills, but if this process is too expensive or complicated...
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head. It's a balancing act for sure.
Right.
They want to raise the bar, make sure that everyone coming in is actually qualified.
Right.
But they also don't want to scare out talented people.
Right. Of course. Okay, so let's say I've done all that. My documents are squeaky clean, submitted my application. What about fees? Any changes there?
Thankfully, no. The fees are staying the same. It's going to cost you somewhere between 2,000 to 7,000 Saudi riyals.
Okay.
Depending on the type of visa you're going for.
So single entry, multiple entry, 1 year, 2 years, they've got options.
They've got options.
You got to factor that into your budget when you're weighing a job offer. And of course, health insurance is still a must, right?
Oh, absolutely. Your employer will usually sort that out for you,
Mm,
but it never hit in to double check.
right. Always good to be sure. So you paid your fees, you've got your insurance, and now we wait. How long does this whole visa processing thing usually take?
Usually it takes 1 to 3 weeks,
Okay,
but with this new pre-verification step, it's hard to say if that timeline will be affected or not.
good point. It might be wise to build in some extra time just in case.
Definitely.
But let's say it all goes smoothly. You get the green light,
Huh?
you're ready to pack your bags and head to Saudi Arabia.
Hold on there.
Oh, what now?
The work visa is just the first step. Remember the ICMA?
The ICMA. Okay, remind me, what is that again?
It's your residency permit in Saudi Arabia. Basically, it's your key to the kingdom.
Ah, okay.
You need to apply for that within 90 days of arriving. And there have been some updates to those rules as well.
Oh, really? So wait, there's more.
Oh, there's always more.
Yeah.
We'll get into those ICMA updates and what they mean for you right after this.
All right, stay tuned. All right, so back to the ICMA. You said there were some new updates to the rules, especially for Indian expats and their families already living in Saudi Arabia.
You got it. The General Directorate of Passports, they announced some pretty big changes. For starters, dependents of expats and domestic workers who are outside of Saudi Arabia, they can now renew their ICMAs from abroad.
Oh, wow. So no more having to rush back to Saudi Arabia just to deal with paperwork?
Nope. It's all online now.
That's got to be a relief for so many families.
Oh, absolutely. It gives people a lot more flexibility, especially if they travel a lot or need to spend time back in India.
Right.
And there's more.
Oh, there's more.
Expats outside the kingdom, they can also extend their exit and re-entry visas. Single or multiple entry, doesn't matter.
So it seems like Saudi Arabia is trying to make things easier for expats, at least when it comes to the paperwork. But then we have these stricter rules for new workers. It's kind of sending mixed signals, don't you think?
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. On the one hand, you've got this pre-verification thing that makes it harder for new workers to come in, but then they're making life easier for the people already there.
It's like they're tightening the entrance, but making the stay more comfortable. Do you think this is all part of that Vision 2030 plan we talked about?
I think it has to be. Remember, they want to attract global talent, but they also need to manage their workforce effectively.
Right.
So these changes could be a way to encourage people to stay in Saudi Arabia long term.
They're saying, come here, prove your skills, and we'll make it easier for you to build a life.
Exactly.
It's a pretty smart move if you think about it. But what does this all mean for someone listening right now? Let's say I'm an Indian worker thinking about taking a job in Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
What should I know?
Well, the pre-verification process is definitely an extra step. It might cost you some money and time. You'll need to be organized, proactive, maybe factor in some delays. But Saudi Arabia still has a lot to offer. The demand for skilled professionals is high. The salaries are good.
So it's a trade-off. More hassle up front, but potentially big rewards later on.
That's one way to look at it. And it's not just about the individual workers either.
Oh, right. What about the bigger picture?
These changes, they could have a big impact on the Saudi economy as a whole. Well, if this pre-verification thing works, and they attract a more skilled workforce, that's a big win for their Vision 2030 goals.
Makes sense.
It could really boost certain industries and maybe even help with unemployment among Saudi nationals.
By making sure that expats are filling those specific skill gaps.
Exactly. But there's also a potential downside.
Oh.
If these rules make it too hard or expensive for talented people to come to Saudi Arabia, it could actually slow down their economic growth.
So they're walking a tightrope here.
They got to find that balance,
Make sure everyone benefits.
Exactly. And we can't forget about the relationship between India and Saudi Arabia. They've been partners for a long time, and the flow of workers between the two countries is a big part of that.
So these new rules could put some strain on that relationship if they're not careful.
It's definitely something to watch. It could have political and economic consequences down the line.
We've covered a lot of ground here, from the pre-verification process to the ICMA updates and the bigger picture implications for both India and Saudi Arabia. But before we wrap things up, I want to leave you with a question to think about.
Okay, I like it.
Do you think these new regulations will make Saudi Arabia more or less attractive to Indian workers in the long run?
That's the million-dollar question. It really depends on how these changes are implemented and how they affect the overall experience for Indian expats.
Yeah.
We'll just have to wait and see.
Only time will tell.
Yeah.
But that's what makes these deep dives so interesting.
Right. It's not about having all the answers. It's about understanding the complexities and figuring things out together.
Absolutely. It's about giving you the knowledge and insight so you can draw your own conclusions.
And maybe even spark some more exploration. Maybe you'll go and research Vision 2030 or read about the experiences of other Indian expats in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, there's a ton of information out there.
So to all our listeners out there, we hope this deep dive has given you a good understanding of these new visa rules and what they might mean for you. But this is just the beginning. Keep digging, keep researching, and stay curious.
You might be surprised by what you discover. And hey, maybe you'll find something we missed.
That's the beauty of knowledge. It's a never-ending journey.
And we're glad to be on that journey with you. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Saudi Arabia's new work visa rules.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Yeah, it really makes you think, doesn't it? How all of this is going to play out.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what I love about these deep dives.
Yeah.
We're not just looking at what's happening right now.
Right.
We're trying to get a glimpse into the future, see how things might change.
It's like we're playing 4D chess or something.
Haha, yeah, something like that.
And it's not just about some boring visa rules either. We're talking about massive global economic shifts.
Oh, yeah.
Changing job markets. That whole dance between what countries want and how they work together.
It's fascinating.
It is. And it's especially relevant to, anyone listening who's thinking about working in Saudi Arabia. So, okay, I know we've thrown a lot of information at you today.
Yeah, we have.
If you had to pick the top 3 things you want people to remember, what would they be?
Okay. Number 1, Saudi Arabia is serious about this whole Vision 2030 thing.
Right.
They want to diversify their economy, and that means attracting talent from all over the world.
Global talent.
Yes, but they're also making sure that that talent is the best of the best. That's where this pre-verification process comes in.
It's like a quality control check.
Exactly. They're saying, hey, we're open for business, but you got to prove you've got the skills.
Right. And that has implications for everyone involved, Indian workers, the Saudi economy, the whole thing.
Exactly. Will it make things faster? Will it scare some people off? Who knows?
We'll have to see.
And the second thing is the potential impact on the relationship between India and Saudi Arabia.
Oh, right.
This is a big change, and it's going to be interesting to see how both countries react and what it means for their partnership moving forward.
Definitely something to keep an eye on.
Absolutely. And lastly, I would say don't stop here.
Keep learning.
This is just the beginning. Maybe this has sparked your curiosity.
Right.
Go do some more research. Read about Vision 2030, or talk to some Indian expats living in Saudi Arabia.
Get those first-hand accounts.
Exactly. The more you know, the better prepared you'll be.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So to all our listeners out there, we hope this deep dive has given you a better understanding of these new visa rules.
Yeah.
Why they're happening, and what they might mean for the future.
And remember, this is just one piece of the puzzle.
Right.
Keep digging, keep exploring, and most importantly, stay curious.
Well said. Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Saudi Arabia's new work visa rules. It's been a pleasure.
It has. And as always, we'll see you next time for another deep dive into, well, whatever's making headlines.
Until then, stay curious.